Okay.
All right, Kim, thank you so much for meeting with me and agreeing to do this interview. Are you okay with doing the interview and with me
Yes.
videotaping it for class?
Yes.
Okay, great. Would you like to just kind of tell us what your degree is that you have and then what your job here is at the hospital?
Okay. I have a bachelor's degree from University of Iowa in nursing, and I have a master's degree in nursing administration from DePaul. And my job here at Morris Hospital is I'm the Vice President of Patient Care Services. I have all of patient care delivery services and the Chief Nursing Executive.
Okay, great. What do you think that you can do in your leadership role to empower others?
Certainly set direction, set expectations, and make sure that we then have the support in place, whether that's a policy or whether that's a piece of equipment or whatever they need to implement. And then also try to motivate people to achieve their goals and to kind of pull out of people what are their goals and what can they do, what are their strengths and what they can do. I think empowering others, so much of it comes from yourself. Motivating others is sometimes a little bit easier because there's usually some sort of reward. But empowering others is really that coaching and mentoring and making sure they're meeting their goals.
Okay, great. What is your definition of a servant leader?
Oh, Servant Leadership. That's a great book. That's kind of probably one of the books that's kind of a management, foundational book. And there's so many different philosophies of leadership, but servant leadership is all about trying to find ways that through others the work gets done, and also being the role model or the servant in some ways to others so that they can see what the expectation is. I think the servant leadership is very, very popular in the faith-based organizations, non-for-profit based organizations, whether those are colleges or hospitals or some sort of not-for-profit, because there's no personal gain extrinsically. Intrinsically there is, but servant leadership is about serving others, and I say all the time, the nurses or the staff are my customers. How do I get them what they need so they can make sure the patient gets what they need? And then there's also a book called The Patient Comes Second, and it talks about servant leadership and how as a manager or a leader you have to make sure your people are your number one customer. So there's a lot about that. But I like the concept of servant leadership. I don't know if it's my main management philosophy, but certainly one of them, because I think once you get in these roles, it's not about you, it's about the staff. And the staff think it's about you, but really it's about the staff. And so, making sure that you're at their level and you're visible to them is very important.
Okay, great. What are your personal leadership strengths?
Well, I love the patients. And I always feel very connected to the patients because I don't feel I'm very far away from it. I know sometimes in roles you get pretty far away from that patient care. I think that's one of my strengths, that I love to round on patients. I love to talk to patients. I feel like when you have a bad day, when you go see a patient, you feel like you have no problems. I think that's probably one of them. I'm a pretty strong believer in having a structural foundation. What are we trying to do? Do we have the framework in place? So I'm pretty good about building processes and building teams and being a systems thinker. How does this change work with the whole system? I try to bring a sense of humor to things. I try to have a little bit of fun because sometimes work is not always fun. And I also try to make sure that people stay in the center, whether that is the patient or the staff or the other manager or leader, that it's really about your people and your relationships. So I think those are some of my strengths.
Great. Let's see here. Do you allow for staff members to meet their full potential?
Do I allow for staff members to meet their full potential? I hope so. I think that's probably a question that the staff could answer better than I. I hope that I can influence people around me and motivate people and show them that you can have a work-life balance and you can do a lot of different things and be good at different things. Some of it's up to the person if they want to meet their full potential. Some of it is you have to have that ambition and the desire. I see people who have great potential but no desire. I see people who have a lot of desire and not as much potential. I'd certainly rather work with that second person that has the desire. But I think at Morris Hospital, we do a lot of things. If you take full advantage, you could really work to your full potential. I hear over and over there's not a lot of opportunity for growth. Yet I think there really is, maybe not always up, but out. And that's sort of the focus of our new career enrichment model. You do a lot of different things to build skills so that you'll be ready when that next job comes. I hope so.
Yeah, so I think you answered my other question then is how do you accomplish this goal? And I think you answered that.
Communication, relationships, and communication. You know, that's really what it's about. Letting people know where you stand, letting people know what the expectations are, what you expect won't be tolerated. I say that often. That can't happen here. That feels slightly uncomfortable to some people, but it's very clear what we expect or what we're going to tolerate in terms of behavior. We have to get the outcomes for our patients. One of the things that's important at Morris Hospital, and as a leader here, in my last 2 roles, I've been part of a system. This is an independent hospital. It's so much more personal here that we have to get the outcomes so that we can stay independent. I mean, there's a desire and a burning platform here that we have to get patient satisfaction. We have to meet our finance goals. We can't just go build a new hospital because we can't afford it. We have to protect, and be a good steward of our resources. We have to have programs in place to retain staff so that we can stay independent. We don't want to be part of another system. That may happen someday, but it's very personal here that we have to get the outcomes. It can't just be business as usual. And so that's a big thing, kind of overarching umbrella that you think about as in your strategies every day. Is this going to matter in 5 years? What's important?
Okay. How do you, as a servant leader, meet the needs of individuals while continuing to meet group need as a whole?
Well, listening, communicating, building relationships. You have to know what people's desires are, where they're coming from. We have a lot of staff here that they want to work part-time, and that's absolutely fine, and we need that. So making sure there's a place for them. There's staff who want to work full-time, we need that. There's staff who want to go above and beyond and do lots of things, we need that. So I think listening to what their needs are. Sometimes you have to say no. We can't just increase tuition to $20,000, and we can't do that because it's not, all the onus is not on the organization. So trying to negotiate outcomes with staff, saying if you do your part, we'll do our part as an organization. I think that's what leaders can do, negotiate to get those outcomes, but also make sure that even if it's something you have to say no to, you've really given the reason why, and then tie it back to strategically what we're trying to do. And it's not on the list, and that's hard. It's hard sometimes.
I bet it is. How do you handle suggestions and feedback when negotiating changes and improvements?
Well, I always am open to anybody's ideas. I want the people closest to any process or closest to anything to help make the decision, or people who are really invested to help make the decision. I don't have to make all the decisions. I probably make 300 a day. I wish other people would make more. So I'm very open to, you make the decision as long as it meets the goals and we stay within our boundaries, whatever those are, whatever we're talking about. The more staff and the middle managers can make decisions and implement, the better things will be, because they know the pitfalls, they know what they're trying to do, they know the advantages. If decisions come out of this office and I never work in OB, that makes no sense. But I can say what we're trying to get to. I can be the visionary thinker saying, this is what we need to get to. You guys pave the way for us. And I think working in teams is something that I'm very used to. And sometimes you have to be boss, but most of the time the team can make any decision and get you to the right place.
Okay. Would you describe yourself as a servant leader?
At times, probably have some work to do. I would describe myself as a leader who is very realistic and close to the action, if you will. I try to think, how is this best for the person in front of the patient or the person at the point of care delivery or wherever that may be in my areas. I think there's probably more I could do. I think balancing being a working mom with the servant leader is very difficult, because a servant leader would constantly be pushing themselves to do more and figure it out. And sometimes as a working mom, there's limitations where I've learned to say no.
Yes.
And I've said, I can't do that because I can't miss this and I don't want to miss this. So that's probably a balance. I kind of view myself as a more probably participative management leader. I really want everybody's feedback, but I sometimes will make the decision. And transformational. How do I take the culture when I came here as a chief nurse 2013, and how do I transform it to what that, so I'm constantly thinking about transformation, which is sometimes involves change, sometimes just kind of working on your strengths and minimizing your challenges, you can transform. But my goal is to, make nursing and the patient care areas very strong. Sometimes in a servant leadership role, that is not your same goal.
Okay.
So I would say I have work to do. It's a journey. I think I have moments of that, but it's probably not my entire strength. Although I love the book and I love the concept and I wish it could be closer. It just doesn't always gel with the day-to-day reality as much as, the book describes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for answering all of my questions. Did you have anything that you would like to add just at the end? Anything that you have?
I'm glad you're doing this because
Great.
this is such a different concept for staff nurses.
Yes.
I'm glad for you.
Great. Well, thank you so much.